We're selling solar to homeowners to put it on their roofs to help them get control and predictability, to help them save money on their bills in the future, today and in the future. If SolarEdge can produce more energy over time more efficiently, why would it not be the solution for everyone, essentially? And I think what we're seeing out there is our solutions do and can and will produce more energy more efficiently. What that does is that's dollars and cents to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Because what they want to do is they're going to pay for kilowatt hours one way or another, whether it's from the utility company or the solar system produces it. If SolarEdge can create those kilowatt hours more efficiently, meaning we lose less when there's a conversion, and we produce more of them over the course of time, and that's why I truly believe SolarEdge is the best option out there.
Sure. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Be Bright podcast. Today we're super excited to have Jeremy Rubens here from SolarEdge Technologies. I know our customers are our favorites. I'm a customer of SolarEdge, and our people love selling it, so we're excited to get to know SolarEdge a little bit more. And the awesome part about it is they're very plugged into the solar industry in general, so I'm assuming our conversation won't just be about SolarEdge, but also just maybe thoughts and feelings on what's going on in solar now. But I always kind of like to start off with, a little bit of personal touch, I guess, as it were. So if you want to just share a little bit about yourself, maybe kind of your journey to SolarEdge and how it's been since being with SolarEdge. Are you still paying the electric company for power every single month? You're not only losing money, you're investing in someone else's future, not your own. Bright Home Energy has over 400 5-star reviews and over 100 5-star reviews on the BBB. That means real homeowners just like you are already making the switch with quality and peace of mind. We are the preferred solar installer for SolarEdge Technologies in Arizona. Not a title that was given, but a title that was earned through quality, structure, and peace of mind. As a NABCEP certified solar installer and an APS qualified technology installer, your solar installation with Bright Home Energy is not good, it's top tier. So the choice is yours. You can either keep paying your utility company every month, making them rich, or you can make the switch to solar and start investing in your future today.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me. Jeremy Rubens, Regional Sales Manager for SolarEdge, based in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in solar I've been at SolarEdge for 5 years.
Cool.
So I started in March of 2020, so right when COVID hit.
Yeah, peak COVID.
Pretty calm, simple time to start a new job. But for 5 years before that, I did work in solar. I was at Sunrun, inside sales and then managing sales there, or managing inside sales. So I've been in solar for about 10 years, a little over 10 years now.
Cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, before that you actually sold solar, right?
Yeah, so at Sunrun I sold.
Sure.
And so my entry into solar, so my whole background before solar was just inside sales.
Okay.
I sold over the phone. I sold a lot of advertising. I'd worked for a company for a while doing advertising on news station websites.
Okay.
That company moved away from Arizona. Opportunity, a lot of people that worked for me ended up going to work for Sunrun at the time. Oh. So I ended up talking to them, and they wanted me to come over there. Didn't know much about solar.
Sure.
So 2015, just got into solar and started selling solar for about a year.
Awesome.
And liked it and have been in it since.
Yeah. No, and I think that probably gives you a little bit of a unique perspective. Anytime you've been at a kitchen table selling a product, understanding the experiences people have, some good, some not so good, I think just kind of lends a different view. And I think that's why we've always appreciated you coming in, being willing to educate our people. Like, you're one of the few vendors we have of any finance company, equipment, anything that there's like a face behind a name. Because I feel like that's what's been difficult throughout solar is like you have these mysterious banks and companies that are like giving you products, running things, there to help, they say. And it's like, cool, like who do I call? It's
a lot of smoke and mirrors sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
No, education's important. And I think SolarEdge, I don't speak for SolarEdge, but we do want to educate the industry as much as possible. The RSMs, my counterparts, we want to get out there and help educate sales reps, educate installers, because I think, when I got into solar 10 years ago, I sold solar over the phone at first. And I remember, and it's not a knock on any person, I remember I had a manager who told me, you don't want to know too much, just sell it. And I get, it's not to knock different people's approach to selling, but the reality is education and truthfully explaining things is very important, especially now, I think, in this industry.
Yeah, totally. And that's sort of the approach we've taken, is because, one of our core values is our motto is powering a better experience. And really solar is a complicated thing. It's its own language. Like whenever a new hire starts and I'm trying to tell them about sales and solar, I'm like, you're learning a new language. You know, megawatts, gigawatts, kilowatt hours, all those sort of things, red lines. And so with that, I think from a customer database, think about a customer, like we'll have reps sit through a week or two training and can barely understand solar, and we're trying to explain it to somebody at a kitchen table for an hour to 2 hours, and then they're making this investment. And so I think that's sort of the approach we've taken, and that's why we're doing content like this, is not only for the people that work for us or are in the industry looking for a home, but also for our customers to say, hey, there's a face behind the name of the company Solar Edge, and you know, you guys are who we trust with our homes as well. And so one thing that, you know, I've been selling Solar Edge for about a decade, and it hit me last night when I was thinking about the podcast today, is like, I don't even really know Solar Edge's story. So, you know, whatever that means, if you don't mind just sharing, like, you know, when were they founded and like kind of what's been the progression of Solar Edge?
Solar Edge was founded in 2006.
Wow. Longer than I would have thought.
We weren't making products right away. We're an Israeli-based company. I think many people know that. And I don't know the exact specifics. I'm sure Wikipedia or our website can explain it better than me. But we eventually started making, like, our goal was, you know, an optimized solution. And that's because if you look at the history of solar, you have string inverters.
Yep.
And if you look at primarily commercial and residential space, you still see a lot of string inverters, especially in commercial space, because they're very cost efficient. But they lack some capabilities and benefits that microinverters came to the table and brought.
Sure.
So string inverters were around for a while. Everyone knows the different manufacturers. If you were around back then, and there's still some now. And then microinverters came around. And microinverters are a great technology because what string inverters did really well was low cost conversion of energy, right? And that's important. That's why commercial sites, you still see string inverters often because they're these massive sites. So low cost is important because you're at this huge scale. Rooftop's going to be a little different at times, especially for residential. So microinverters, what string inverters don't do well is they don't convert energy, their maximum power point tracking. They're much more impacted by shade. Okay. Sorry to simplify it. So like shading or being installed on different roof planes, the solar panels aren't getting the same sunlight at all times. On a string inverter, you know, you're going to be limited basically by your lowest producing module, your lowest producing panel on that string. Right, so you've heard it in salespeople talk about the Christmas light analogy.
Yep.
Right, one goes out, they all do. Everyone talks about it, great. So microinverters were a great way to solve that because we have these houses that, well, it's not like a commercial install where all these solar panels face one direction. It's multifaceted roof planes, 3-4 roof planes, southwest, southeast, whatever it is. So microinverters now, each panel can convert energy independently. You know, they're a little more expensive because a very expensive piece of equipment is under each panel, right? Economy of scale in that regards. And they're a little bit less efficient than for when Solar Edge came along. So Solar Edge, after string inverters and microinverters, they were both in existence, we came along with a DC optimized solution. What we view it as is the best of both worlds. So on the roof, where a microinverter converts energy and it does maximum power point tracking, which is just increased energy harvest at each actual module, Solar Edge does that with our optimizers.
Okay.
We don't convert energy DC to AC like a microinverter does, but we maximize the harvest of energy, which I think is like the simplest way to say that, right, to a homeowner. Is like we do the same thing as a microinverter to increase energy harvest, so you're not impacted negatively by shading or one module going out. Each module will be independently able to create as much energy as possible. So I think that's a huge benefit. The optimizers being less expensive than a microinverter because they're not doing as much heavy lifting, converting energy, which is it's a more in-depth process of needing expensive equipment. We convert energy at the side of the house at a more efficient rate. And I think that comes into play very importantly is with us being the most efficient solution out there, we can harvest more energy and lose less of it.
Sure.
And then being DC coupled, when you get into battery systems, being able to harvest energy and store that energy with less loss. Some of these AC coupled competitors, you're converting energy multiple times. You call it triple penalty conversion. Did I say that wrong? I'm not a marketing person. Okay. But at the end of the day, they're converting energy multiple times.
Right.
And the way I look at it is like, we're selling solar to homeowners to put it on their roofs to help them get control and predictability, to help them save money on their bills in the future, today and in the future. if SolarEdge can produce more energy over time more efficiently, why would it not be the solution for everyone, essentially? And I think what we're seeing out there is our solutions do and can and will produce more energy more efficiently. What that does is that's dollars and cents to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Because what they want to do is they're going to pay for kilowatt hours one way or another, whether it's from the utility company or the solar system produces it. If SolarEdge can create those kilowatt hours more efficiently, meaning we lose less when there's a conversion, and we produce more of them over the course of time, and that's why I truly believe SolarEdge is the best option out there.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's something that, as you think about solar, it's a very long-term investment. And so, yeah, you lose a couple kilowatt hours here, there, everywhere. Over 25 years, though, it's pretty astonishing to kind of do that math and see how it all adds up to what they would be losing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
dollars and cents.
Because, like, even compared to some of our closest competitors that we see in, like, the efficiency, I see, like, 1% efficient, give or take, which doesn't seem like a large number when you think of 1%. But as you just said, over 25 years. So you're on the sales side closer to me. What does a typical system ballpark produce kilowatt hours in a year, would you say?
I think for most of our systems, probably like 12 to 14,000 kilowatt hours.
Okay, so at 1%, it's only 150 kilowatt hours.
Right.
But what is that over 25 years?
Right.
And what is the cost of a kilowatt hour in 20 to 25 years? Because that 150 kilowatt hours is, well, now you're 3,000 kilowatt hours.
Right.
And what is the cost of that? And is it that efficiency gain, I believe, ends up being greater for SolarEdge just because of the improved energy harvest and production.
Right.
And what we're looking at the modules. We lose less energy on the roof because our optimizers can handle, they don't clip, right? We don't lose energy on the roof. A lot of the microinverters we see out there, modules are 400, 420, 440. Sure. They're only able to produce 299, 295, 325, levels below it. So if those modules are producing optimally, they're losing energy right there. Right. From what? And that's a big one to me because the homeowners, coming from the sales side originally to the manufacturing side, as a salesperson, the only thing I ever talk about to a homeowner is the system size DC or sometimes the kilowatt hour production.
Right.
Well, the homeowner only sees AC energy.
Of course.
And I think that's a big misnomer out there sometimes to properly educate.
Right.
So homeowners aren't upset at 3 months, 6 months, so they can give you referrals, things like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I kind of tell customers in the home is like, it's not necessarily what you produce, it's how much of that you can use. And that's why I think, we've been such big fans of SolarEdge, and it's why I have it on my home. It's the one I trust to be able to produce and convert as much energy as possible and to be able to retain that. And then I'd say secondarily, like just hearing it kind of from the sales side is another huge thing that maybe you could talk about is the warranties. Like 25-year warranty, for inverter is pretty substantial compared to the industry average, correct?
Yeah, I think warranties are a common topic. I think, and especially at the kitchen table with the salesperson, I think the most important thing of a warranty is relaying to the homeowner that it's the manufacturer that has the warranty and the reliability of that company. SolarEdge is a large publicly traded company. Right. We have a lot of money in bank. There's been ups and downs in solar. I think what always has helped SolarEdge is, we're a global company, right? So ups and downs in different market. Maybe markets across the country impact us less because we're much more dispersed. We work a lot in residential and commercial, right? And we do some small utilities, so a lot more dispersed there, not as dependent on one market having a drastic impact or shift, I would say, is helpful for the warranty. Because homeowners, I think that's that warm and fuzzy.
Yeah,
they want to hear that.
It definitely is.
And then beyond that, I think our warranties are best in class. And then we can say that. I would say on our inverter, on the side of the house, you have a standard 12-year warranty out of the box. You can buy it up to 25 years, 20 or 25. I'd say most common is 25. And it's I believe it ranges between $170 and $225.
Right.
So it's a very minimal cost to get that 25-year warranty. On the roof, our optimizers have a 25-year warranty.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we've made mandatory. I'll blame and praise Nate for it from the beginning. Is every single one of our customers, we do the 25-year warranty for. So, and that's a big thing. Like us doing everything in house is like we know that we're going to get those calls. And a couple things we run into, and if you don't mind addressing, I just think this would be kind of really helpful for people to understand and see or hear. Because one thing that we have heard from people is they said, well, SolarEdge is a great company, but back in 2020 they had some shortages and stuff. And we're like, yeah, we did, but so did everybody else. And now, like the last 4.5 years, it's been 100% fine. And number two, I think probably more equally or probably more impactful is like if I'm sitting at a kitchen table or a representative is, or maybe it's a consumer looking at this, like we run into this sometimes, and I feel like it's sometimes hard to explain, so would love to just get your explanation on it. Is, okay, I got a quote with microinverters. Okay. And not saying you have to bash any company out there, but if you were to logically and simply explain to a consumer, like, why in Arizona should you go with a SolarEdge inverter with DC optimizers versus microinverters?
Yeah. So I'll be partial because SolarEdge
on the hot seat.
SolarEdge does employ me. So I would say first and foremost, I would buy SolarEdge because it helps me selfishly because I work for the company and I appreciate the business. So I would think SolarEdge makes the most sense. But no, I think what I said earlier, I stand by is when I sold solar, I'll be honest, and I do sales trainings. I've done sales trainings with you in the room multiple times, and I say this to people is like, I genuinely sold solar to homeowners and knew very little about inverter technology. I don't think you need to know a whole lot. Like, when you talked about the learning curve when people come to learn to sell, like I spent 5 years in solar. I would say 6 months on the manufacturing side, I learned so much information I never knew existed in solar. Right. It maybe wasn't as pertinent to me as a sales rep, and that's why I didn't need to know it. Some of it may be. What I say is this is helping educate the homeowner so that they're not being misinformed is, I think, is the job of a salesperson. And that's a salesperson that would win the deal from someone else. And so when you go into a home, if someone has a bid for a microinverter and you're selling SolarEdge, I would just say, hey, I would start to educate them on the difference and what do they like about that versus this. And I would start asking questions because I don't want to like overly make assumptions, but usually some of my questions are going to lead to the answers I want. If they're not, I'm going to go back. Because my goal is I want to get them back on my sales process. Right. Most salespeople out there I meet aren't selling on technology. They're not leading into home with, here's the inverter you're going to get because of this, that, or the other, right? And if they are, I'm happy to have that conversation. I think there's a lot of value selling that makes a lot of sense, and we can talk about that, and there's commonalities and differences. But someone who has a microinverter, I would ask them the questions. What do you like about the microinverter? Right. And that's where you're going to find out, what did that sales rep tell them? Right. And that's where you've seen the trainings. Let's do the side-by-side of, did that sales rep tell them the truth or not? Right? Because I hear a lot of people say, well, these are fully 25-year fully wrapped warranties. Let's look at whatever this company is at the warranties. Is it really 25 years on all the product? Is that misleading? Right? What is the efficiency or what is the loss of energy over time? Is it a battery system? And then I would ask them, with microinverters, my biggest concern in Arizona living here is, it's June 3rd and it's hot. Right? It gets really hot here, and the roofs get the hottest. So the microinverter is the hardest working piece of equipment that's converting energy. I'm not an electrician engineer, the smartest person in any room I walk into, but I know that heat and electricity and energy aren't always the best friends. So it's working under those solar panels in the hottest place day in and day out. Right. When they go down, do you want the most expensive piece of equipment of your system that's very heavy working, hard working on 140, 150, 160 degree roof, and there's 20, 30, 40 of those, they're not all probably going to go out at the same time. Right. How often are you as a company sending people up on those roofs to fix them? Yes, we have optimizers on roofs. Sure. There are a lot less mechanical components of what they're doing, and I haven't seen the issues of having to get on roofs a lot with those, and that makes a big difference. Yeah. I think that would be my concern. And where I think a big value of SolarEdge comes into play. That if there is an issue, it's on the side of the house, it's a quick and easy fix. Yep.
Oh, no, 100%. And I think that's honestly, part of us using SolarEdge, other than it's a great quality product, is that, the one thing that sales reps maybe don't think about or customers don't think about is, once you are installed and you have a contract with an installer, sorry, if you have one microinverter go out, it's going to cost the install company more money to go fix that than it's probably worth. So, like, are they going to wait till you have 2 or 3 or 4 before they go fix it? Yeah, most likely, because like you said, they're not going to go all out at the same time. And as an installation company, the biggest drain on funds and viability typically long-term, it comes from service. And it comes from, problems with roofs, problems with equipment. The more times we have to go to a home, we're not really getting paid for that. I mean, we get reimbursed on certain things from manufacturers, but by and large, that's why going with Solar Edge, doing it right the first time, is going to eliminate most people's problems from that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, like, how often do you want to be walking on people's roofs? Right? If you don't have to be. Yeah. And that's, like, it's not to create, like, fear or uncertainty of a competitor of any way. It's I still go back to Solar Edge. What I would think people say should lean into is they have microinverters and Solar Edge. Ask them those questions, right? What did you like about the microinverters? Did they like the warranty? Because we hear that a lot.
Sure.
But then what are the other things they liked? In my assumption, a lot of the things they liked about microinverters are probably apples to apples with our DC optimized solution.
Right. Yep.
I think typically what I tell salespeople, because I've managed salespeople and I've been a salesperson, right? And I am a salesperson. If I lose, like if I'm selling to this customer and you're selling product A and I'm selling product B and they go with you, it's most likely you're just a better salesperson to me.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Sure.
I think like you're closer to the sales world than me, but 9 times out of 10, the better salesperson is going to win the deal.
Yeah.
So my always thought is let's help educate and get back on your sales path.
Yep.
Right? Like when I do trainings, I can answer Solar Edge questions. We can do explaining the value of Solar Edge, and I think it's very important to understand that. But how do we just help educate you on the industry and get you back on your sales path?
Are you still paying the electric company for power every single month? You're not only losing money, you're investing in someone else's future, not your own. Bright Home Energy has over 400 5-star reviews and over 100 5-star reviews on the BBB. That means real homeowners just like you are already making the switch with quality and peace of mind. We are the preferred solar installer for Solar Edge Technologies in Arizona. Not a title that was given, but a title that was earned through quality, structure, and peace of mind. As a NABCEP certified solar installer and an APS qualified technology installer, your solar installation with Bright Home Energy is not good, it's top tier. So the choice is yours. You can either keep paying your utility company every month, making them rich, or you can make the switch to solar and start investing in your future today.
Yeah, and I think if there's any, as I look back over the years, being in solar for 10 years, there's a couple companies or products that stand out that people get really passionate about. And I feel like if there's any sort of gap sometimes is, and you guys are trying to help solve that, is education to the rep and the company on like why Solar Edge and knowing the difference between, DC optimizers versus microinverters. Because there was a time when I was selling solar 8 years ago, somebody, a salesman came in, sold them on microinverters, and I'm just like, well, Solar Edge is really good. You know what I mean? And it's like, I lost the sell. And it's part of what you're saying is like, yeah, the better salesperson wins. But it seems like in some weird way, people that sell microinverters are just like, they love them and they just want to explain all about them. And I feel like the tide's definitely turning with the optimizers for sure. But yeah, I just find kind of an interesting thing.
It's a great point. And I think in any product or any industry, like you can get passionate about something, create the new sexy, cool product. And we've seen it come in batteries too. Yeah. And I think in many industries and in solar, it comes and goes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the appeal to something is, do some companies do a better job over marketing or getting the appeal of certain salespeople? Probably, right? Yeah. That's the reality of the world we live in. But I think at the end of the day, what salespeople and installers are seeing in the industry is, I want to sell to homeowners that have a good experience.
Right.
And I want them to have a good experience in year 1, year 5, and year 15, because that's how me as a company and me as a business can grow. Because like every salesperson I've ever talked to is like, I ask them, like, if you can build a referral book of business that in 3 years is just supporting itself, would you want that? And they all say yes. Like, and I'm not building sales teams. I don't live in that world, but like, to do that, yes, there's all these activities of how you can perform and the actions you take.
Sure.
But what are you doing for the homeowner?
Right.
Are they having that ideal experience? And I think that's, and what I've experienced over the last few years with solar is that's what we're focused on helping provide, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think it helps everyone down the line.
No, and I agree with that. And that probably shifting gears a little bit would help. So a couple other questions I have for you. So one, obviously the last couple years in solar have been interesting. A lot of companies have come and gone, and with some of the uncertainty, probably not the last of them to go. I mean, as you kind of survey, and maybe even the company in general, like, there are kind of common themes you've seen between companies that have been able to make it through and actually thrive in this versus those that are no longer here? If you had to kind of pinpoint it to a couple things or anything that come to mind.
It's a great question. I don't think I'm the most equipped to answer it. I would say the ones still around are clearly better at business than maybe the ones that aren't. And I don't mean to say that negatively and rudely. Like, for different reasons, I think different companies have gone out of business. I think there's been different headwinds that have really negatively impacted companies, and people have seen it. Whether it's finance companies late to pay or finance companies going out of business, people have seen it. That's been very impactful. Scaling businesses too fast, we've seen, and that's gone on for many years, right? That's the last 10 years. I think what we've seen the last couple of years is more volume of companies struggling and going out of business, but I don't think it's new.
Sure.
There's just been more unfortunate headwinds to it. The companies that are striving, I think solar as a business model is very beneficial for the homeowner and the business when done done in the way where everyone can benefit.
Right.
And I think I'm not in the big industry discussion of how that works, what that looks like in the end, but there's a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And it's just, it clearly doesn't work today for how every business is operated, but there are businesses succeeding and growing.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty politically and otherwise. I think the future of it still does grow, sustain for sure, but does grow over time, and the businesses all prosper because of it.
Yeah, no, and we feel the same way. And, with that too, I think a few things you've said in this interview kind of stick out to me, and maybe it's just because that's kind of the route we're going, is it's all about experience, experience for our customers, experience for our people. I think the last couple of years in solar, it sort of felt like a race to the bottom. Like, can we get the cheapest equipment to sell the cheapest price to try to garner volume? And I feel like it's left a lot of customers kind of hanging high and dry.
Yeah, and it's a weird, I don't disagree. And it's weird because it's like a double race to the bottom because you have the EPC model, race to the bottom, and the sale. And there's two. And I was just at a lunch actually today when I was talking to this conversation with someone. I thought of something. I'm sure people have said it in the same type of analogy. It's like solar's not a cheap product, right? It's a very expensive. Like I used to sell it when I would tell people it's probably one of the top 2 or 3 purchases someone's ever going to make.
Yeah, that's true.
So like when I buy a car, you're typically not racing to, I want the least expensive. Like I don't go to the dealership and say I want your least expensive model or beat them up. I might try to beat them up over price, but I'm finding a car I want with features and benefits like that and value in it. Same with a house, right? When you go house shop, like I don't know why in solar we bypass all the other stuff. Because even an AC unit, an AC unit has a range and cost. I've bought a new AC unit. I don't remember the exact range and cost, but there's a couple $1,000s range of value, and people buy different ones.
Right.
In solar, there's different ranges of value, but somehow the race to the bottom I think you're referring to is like the red line race, which actually isn't a product quality. It's, well, I'm putting every EPC on the same playing field and everything they offer and all that. And that's what goes back to what I said before is what's the end result of your customer in 1, 3, 5, 10, 15 years? Right? Because I don't think it is an even playing field. And I think that's the difficulty of that race also I think caused other companies to go out of business. Right? It created expectations of a scalable business model for some that probably was not.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely interesting. But, appreciate your point on that. I think it makes a ton of sense because, I never thought of it like that. Like solar is probably going to be one of the at least minimum top 5 most expensive things you purchase in your lifetime. And none of the other ones you mentioned, like, are people.
Well, my wife's a real estate agent. And it's like when she goes looking at homes with clients, they're not like, just show me the cheapest.
Right.
They may have a
Most
budget.
People probably go above their budget. If
and so it's like in solar. I'm not saying it all needs to be sold on value. Like we are selling a replacement to utility, but are we missing on homeowners want to buy value and product with it? I think we're over emphasizing the value of a low cost.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess just while we're on the topic of solar in general, obviously there's a lot going on politically and stuff. I mean, I guess from Solar Edge's standpoint, not that you're speaking
I'm
for
not
yourself,
a spokesperson.
Not a spokesperson for Solar Edge, but I mean, just generally speaking, thoughts, feelings on
I agree.
What's going on.
Well, no, I mean, I think there is some political uncertainty, it seems, that obviously everyone's aware of.
Yeah.
There's been we've put out some webinars on our Edge Academy that everyone has access to. If you don't, you can go to solaredge.com and create an account so you can access our trainings and our recorded webinars. So we have some around domestic content, and I think as we get more updates, we'll probably post other ones. I think that it's an uncertain time. I think a lot, so I shouldn't say it like that, is House passed a bill, and I'm not an expert, that is in Senate, and it sounds like there's going to be some revisions, and it goes back, and there's some large implications of how it's going to play out in solar. From talking to installers and hearing internally, everything I can gather is like it's a wait and see.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
I don't think anyone has a crystal ball.
No.
Right. I think solar. What salespeople do really well in solar is stress urgency.
Yeah.
Yes, there's urgency to go solar now, but it's the reality of the urgency to go solar now because of this is always there.
Right.
Right. These uncertainties and these headwinds or negative impacts to solar or things to hurt solar in different communities are always going to be out there lurking.
Right.
So there's always that urgency to go solar now. So I think that can help the industry.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of loud voices, and I'm very optimistic. And what I hear the message is from a lot of folks in the industry is optimism that what's written can be improved, that solar will sustain and prosper in the years to come.
Sure.
And from what I'm hearing from people smarter than me that are more involved with me about it, and there's a lot you can read out there, that I think there's a lot of optimism to have.
Yeah. No, we agree with that.
Depending on when this gets published, this could be really foot in my mouth moment. We'll see, but
no, you know how social media is and those Facebook groups.
I'm actually not really on social media, so I don't.
Good.
I've been on it in the past, but I've done a social media cleanse.
Yeah, well, if you ever decide to jump back in, you should go to Solar Sales. I think it's like Solar Talk with Sales Pros or something.
So I think I was in one or two of those groups.
Pretty wild.
In the past, like 4 years ago. But I believe you.
I sometimes want to comment like, man, if you spent half as much time knocking as you are in this freaking group, dude, you'd be making money. You wouldn't have to comment in this group anymore. As far as Solar Edge goes, I've been a customer for a while, but I also recently added a battery to my home.
Awesome.
Yeah, super exciting. I live in SRP utility, which has some pretty damaging consequences for dipping into peak time. And so the consumption battery's been awesome. And it's just like a cool thing. I feel like I'm like up, with the wave of the future. So I wanted to talk to you just about a couple items, just like the consumption battery versus the backup. And then if there's any sort of things like that you could share it's coming down the pipeline. I don't know, maybe there is with storage or not from your perspective with Solar Edge, like Solar Edge products, or keep running as is. So I guess for you, optimizing, I think a big thing we've seen shifting is now batteries are becoming literally a conversation in every home. Mm-hmm. We used to sell against them, just like we used to sell leases when I started. We sold against loans, and then everybody flipped to loans, and we sold loans, and we sold against leases. And then now, leases came back and all that. So now we're selling batteries.
It goes back to my favorite when I used to manage salespeople, because we would lead with a lease where I worked in the past. And then some people didn't want a lease, only want a loan. And everyone I trained, it's like, I will sell a lease and bash a loan until someone wanted to buy the loan. Right. And I sold the loan and bashed the lease. And I think salespeople can do that with anything.
Right.
It can do it with types of inverters. You can do it with batteries or no batteries, types of batteries. A salesperson can oversell or bash whatever they want.
Yeah, and I guess for you, now that, we started with inverters and optimizers, now switching into battery, like why do you feel like batteries are going to basically become a must here in Arizona for customers?
I think the exact reason you just said is the rates have become astronomical here, right? And it's uncertainty, and they're going up, and it's like, how do we get more energy independence?
Right.
How do we get more control? And I think a lot of the solar rates that utilities are putting into place are obviously to negatively impact the value of solar, it seems like, right? Everyone does the penciling out. People smarter than me show it to me and say, I penciled out to sell it, and now this hurts me, right? I save X amount less or whatever it is. So the battery being able to store energy and use it for when you can maximize it, I think is where people are seeing, okay, now the utility can't just beat me up over it, and I'm just at their helm, right? I'm not at the whipping post where I have to buy their energy and buy it at the times that are most expensive because my solar doesn't produce, right? Because that's what that rate is, right? A demand rate is your solar stops producing, we're going to charge you a fortune.
Right.
So the battery helps protect. And I think the future is how do we store as much energy to help the grid?
Right.
Because then the grid isn't going to have as many issues because our rates go up because partially they have to keep fixing a very antiquated, many parts of this country, 100-year-old plus utility structure.
Yeah. No, I agree. And as far as the wave of the future, I mean, a lot of utilities are starting to do virtual power plant programs. I think started in California, Texas, different areas. I mean, one thing I will say about the grid here in Arizona, I feel like it's pretty stable, all things considered, versus like Texas and different places with deregulated energy. But, these utility companies are now starting to incentivize virtual power plant. I don't know if there's been much discussion at Solar Edge about that or sort of thoughts.
So
programs
I'm not the best
higher level
speaking on this, but yes, we're very involved in virtual power plant programs all across the country. So very involved. I know in the Northeast, in California, we definitely anyone that's talking to utilities or states that are looking at starting VPPs or have a working one. In Texas, we're involved with multiple companies engaged on the different REPs, the retail energy providers, where they offer different incentives for. So involved in a lot of those and happy to engage with any utility that's offering them. Kind of in the Southwest region, Colorado currently has one with Excel. TEP in Tucson is about to launch one that's about to go live. And it's pretty exciting. I think it's a little exploratory as well as giving some incentive, but looking into the future of what can these programs provide.
Sure.
So we're very involved in them and very excited of what the future can be.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's just another sort of domino to fall to show that, hey, storage really is the wave of the future.
Yes.
And as far as that's concerned, it comes up. I mean, it's definitely something that, you look at solar as a whole, there's a lot to it. It's not just solar panels on the roof. Like, it's energy independence, it's energy technology, it's self-reliance in some ways, and then it's also storage. And that's the thing is, it's just in this interesting state, I feel like, right now, because most of the regulations are put in there to try to harm solar customers or to try to make it a negative for them. But I feel like, at least for me in my situation, being an SRP customer, where I had strict times when I could use power and I could not, but now adding a battery has really just kind of freed up that experience, and it's helped me save quite a bit more money just because of the storage capability.
Yeah, because you can control the rate that the rate that would negatively impact your power usage, your energy usage, is protected by your battery.
Yeah.
Right, and it's great, and like you said, what I've seen is Arizona does have a very stable grid.
Sure.
So maybe in the future backup would be more needed, but here in Arizona we see. I apologize. What did you call the battery?
We call it a consumption
battery, which is fine. I've heard people call it different. The only reason I ask is just because I get this question a lot. Is Solar Edge makes one battery.
Right.
We make a domestic content version or non-domestic, which for folks now selling domestic content, that's pretty straightforward. But you can either add the backup function to it, which would include a backup interface, which is, has your auto transfer switch and can disconnect from the grid, or you don't need that and you would be able to do arbitrage. Some people call it grid tied, consumption. What you're doing is mitigating the high cost of energy at certain times by storing it when it's lower, when you're producing it and you don't need it, essentially.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, kind of lastly on the product itself, I mean, I think one of the coolest features or benefits being a customer is the monitoring aspect. Do you want to set the record straight about how monitoring actually works? Because I know as far as salespeople and just things you hear over time is Solar Edge is monitoring every system 24/7, 365. Not true, by the way. But yeah, do you mind just
so Solar Edge
monitoring?
Offers the ability for anyone to access the monitoring of their system 24/7, 365. So, I mean, I can't speak to how anyone sells any. Solar Edge offers monitoring. You just need to connect to it.
Yep.
So most people, there's either a cellular communication or some type of communication that connects to the monitoring, and then there is monitoring. Different installers, and this is where I would defer to who your installer you're working with, the Bright Home, may have different levels of monitoring of their systems.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one thing we've added on every single customer is a 25-year warranty as well as the cell card, just in case somebody's Wi-Fi goes down or they change the Wi-Fi password.
And I know Bright Home does actively monitor systems. So if a homeowner does have a cycle down, Solar Edge does work with Bright Home to actively monitor. If we notice something, like there's known things that we can notice, as a good partner, we will notify Bright Home if we notice something that would be this inverter probably needs to be replaced because we see XYZ, like simple like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. It's really cool to get like a text from a customer, an email, or see it in the notes to where like, and it's happened like a lot to where it's like, oh, SolarEdge reached out and said, hey, there's something going on. We're going to contact your installer, you know, to do that, like being more proactive than reactive.
Yeah, I think working to support our installer base, you know, as you said, it's been tough times in solar. What can we do to create the best customer experience, right? Our customer is the installer. Our customer is the homeowner. Our customer, right? There's a lot of customers out there in that sense of like, how do we create that great experience for them? Because the folks that work for you, the installers are our customer too, right?
Sure.
Like the guys on the roof. And how do we create a great experience for everyone?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And yeah, I mean, once again, Jeremy, appreciate you coming on, representing SolarEdge, and just being able to share to everybody on here. And really, at the end of the day, I think it's really cool to align with other companies that care, because I think that's been the wildest thing throughout solar is like it's attracted some of the very best people, and it's attracted, unfortunately, some of the worst. And you know, there are companies that are still out there that care. I know manufacturers care, but even some manufacturers have bit the dust because they've cut corners or maybe didn't care as much as the others. And so it's really nice to be aligned with those. You seem like yes.
I mean, there's any industry, anything you do in life, like there's going to be shitty people in any room. Just walk into a different room, right? Like,
yep.
I don't think bad apples are going to affect the industry as a whole.
No.
Big picture, and I think it's exciting that there are companies doing things the right way. Like I love your question about how can companies do the right thing to sustain. I'm not a business professional, but there are companies growing and thriving right now and excited about the future, right? And excited about, you know, all these uncertainties in the industry. We're going to figure them out. Whatever happens. We're going to have a valuable business with a customer base that, you know, and we're seeing it with storage in certain markets of like aftermarket storage. Customers are paying a premium because in certain markets they want backup, and they'll pay a premium for backup, right? Just like in Arizona, people want to be able to have, you know, consumption batteries right now because their peak rates, their demand rates have gone so high. They'll pay a premium that they wouldn't pay 1, 2, 3 years ago, and they'll do that because they see the value. I think the sales reps, the companies are showing the value of the product because it is going to help them over time, create that, you know, independence, that savings, what they want, right? Control and predictability.
Yeah, and I just sold a battery the other day, a consumption one to a customer, and it was pretty easy conversation because it's like, hey, the extra $30-$40 a month on a lease it's going to be, like, you were going to pay that to APS anyways. So it's like, it's really starting to pencil to where it's like you can pay for that battery and it will pay you back. Or you can just continue to pay the utility more. But thank you all for tuning in. Thanks again, Jeremy, for coming on. We love the partnership with SolarEdge. We are excited and 100% confident for the future, and it makes it a lot more exciting, and we feel a lot more confident walking into the future with solid partners like SolarEdge. So be sure to like, subscribe, check out the SolarEdge. What was the video that you...
So Edge Academy. So if you go to SolarEdge.com, and then you can click on log in and create an account, user account. You can go to Edge Academy is our online database with online trainings, webinars, all that.
Cool. Get educated.
And then for salespeople, we have a Sales Elite program where we do webinars so they can join them. We do giveaways and just get them access to more trainings and education.
Awesome. Well, yeah, check out SolarEdge. Keep tuning into the podcast, and we'll see you all in the next one again. Thanks.